Here with reaction, author of the bestseller, The Trump Effect, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Well, I was there the night you became Speaker. I was the MC of your event. The year was 1994. One of the greatest days of my life. Congratulations. Now you see what happened and is happening. How do you find the 2,600 new ballots one day, 2,700 the next day? Help me out.
Well, I think start with the fact that you have a Secretary of State who is totally in the pocket of Stacey Abrams, who has agreed to some rules that are crazy, so that, for example, you can't go back out and revalidate absentee ballots. In 2018, they had a 3.5% rejection rate on absentee ballots. With 4 times as many ballots this year, it's 0.3. That is, they had over 10 times as many ballots rejected, but the difference would be about 39,000. And that's all a deal that the Secretary of State cut with Stacey Abrams back in the spring. You go through item after item. It tells you the difference in the two parties. She's not worried about buying TV ads. She's worried about mobilizing 600,000 voters without any regard to what the campaign is like. And unless the Republicans fix the flawed election system, they stand a very real chance of losing the election, even if they win the campaign, because the Democrats will simply manufacture as many votes as they need. As you said, the beginning of this canvass, every day they find an additional county that had an additional area that, by the way, all of them, by the way, so far for Trump, that hadn't actually reported or hadn't been counted in. Now, that's not huge, but I think they've cut the margin by over 1,000 votes for Biden just in this first phase. Also, there's a question of how many people voted twice. That is, they voted by absentee and then they walked in and they voted in the ballot box. The Secretary of State estimated during the primaries it was about 1,000 people. Well, we haven't seen any numbers yet for how many there are during the general election. So I'm very concerned that even though I think Warnock is an extraordinarily radical candidate and that essentially Ossoff is a product of Hollywood and Silicon Valley. Nonetheless, even if we win the campaign, if we don't fix this election system, and the governor and the Secretary of State have been absolutely useless in trying to get this thing fixed. We have the House, we have the Senate, the Georgia legislature could come in next Monday. They could fix a fair amount of this. They could also demand an accurate recount and simply note that the agreement the Secretary of State signed back in the spring changed Georgia law. He doesn't have the power to do that. The Constitution says those powers are reserved to the legislature, not to the Secretary of State or the court. So I just want you to know I am extremely concerned that this will be stolen no matter how good the campaign is.
Well, at the end of the day, every one of these states we're talking about, they all have statutory language. Partisan observers get to watch the entire vote count, everything, start to finish. Well, state after state, that didn't happen. 100 feet away, 20 feet away, 6 feet away. Okay, you can't see a ballot from 6 feet away. Then you've got the 2 signature verification standards. How do you have 2 different standards in one state? Then you have ballots showing up out of nowhere. Then you're just mailing out ballots to people on top of some dead people we've verified, in fact, did actually vote in this election or people ineligible to vote. It's hard to pull it all together, but I'm looking at we're the greatest country on the face of the earth, and I see this only in select states. And I don't think people can have confidence in any of the states we're talking about based on what we know now. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and look, I think President Trump owes it to the American people to not concede until we've had an honest, accurate count in the states you're describing. In the case of Georgia, for example, one of the largest voting centers in Fulton County told the Republican poll watchers at 10 o'clock at night that everybody was going home. As soon as the Republicans left, they went back and counted ballots for 3 more hours with nobody there watching them. Now, it denies common sense not to believe that they were stealing. You have in Nevada an even worse case. If you listen to Adam Laxalt, the former Attorney General of Nevada, the legislature there, in a model that fits Tammany Hall, has legislated illegality as a legal system. So there are 600,000 votes in Nevada that nobody has seen. And I'm doing a podcast this week at Gingrich 360 specifically, talking to people around the country. We're going to do every state that's in the contest is getting its own podcast.
In the case of, and look, I can barely download an app. I'm not the right guy. I have no idea. I don't know about the Dominion software. What do I know? But when you have Democratic politicians, the New York Times, the AP, a tenured expert at Princeton, the state of Texas rejecting one system, and then it's used in 28 states, I would think just simple common sense would say that probably isn't the right system to use, but it was used anyway. Thoughts?
Well, when I learned that these votes were going through Barcelona, Spain, to Frankfurt, Germany to be counted, this is madness. This is utterly crazy. And I think we have to take this whole system apart and recognize that this election is a great moment for the American people to decide, do they want to have an honest election where they get to pick their leaders, or do they just want corrupt machines such as the one that Stacey Abrams is building to run the system, or the Nevada legislature and governor, the Democrats, who literally have built a corrupt system but made it legal because the legislature and the governor signed a law which I think will not hold up in federal court because it's so blatantly dishonest.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it for that update.